Welcome to the first part of your Octopus Amigurumi beginner's crochet project. This is part 1, the octopus body, the head and the gusset. For this project I'm going to be using yarn and colours Epic in the colour orange and a 4mm hook. You will also need a darning needle, fibre fill stuffing and some stitch markers. So to get started, you're going to do a magic ring. So I like to wrap the yarn around my fingers so I've got 3 threads across, making sure you're wrapping towards the back with your yarn tail towards your fingers. Then insert your hook underneath the 3 threads, bring the 3rd thread under the first 2 and then do a chain around it to seal it. Now you're going to work your stitches into the middle of that loop in order to then be able to pull it tight at the end. So for a double crochet stitch, you're simply going to insert your hook, then yarn over and pull that back, and then yarn over and pull through the 2 loops that are on your hook. So it's inserting into the hook, yarning over, pull that back, yarning over and through 2. Then because you've got the 2 threads in the middle, if you just tug on it lightly, you'll then be able to see which one to move, then pull it nice and tight together to form that first circle. Now for your second round, what we're going to do is we're going to be using stitch markers to mark our first stitch of the round. So insert your hook underneath the top of the previous stitch and previous round, yarn over and pull that back through and complete the DC by yarning over and pulling through 2. Now take your stitch marker and you're going to insert it around that first stitch, either through both or just one half of the loops on top, and then just pinch to secure. Now you're going to continue to work another double crochet into that same stitch that you worked your first. So inserting your hook, yarning over to pull up a loop, yarning over again and pulling through 2. You're going to continue to work 2 double crochets into each stitch around, so you end up with 12 double crochets at the end of your round. You'll know your round is finished when you reach your stitch marker. You don't need to do another stitch this round into that stitch marker stitch because you've marked the first stitch of your round. Some people might like to mark the last stitch of their round so that they know that that's the last one. It's honestly up to you where you decide to do your marker. Just make sure as well when you reach it that you're not crocheting around it because that can be quite fiddly. So here are your 12 stitches. For round 3, you're going to be working an additional 6 stitches into the round, so you want to be working 1 double crochet into that first stitch, marking it with your stitch marker. The increase theory for the double crochet is to increase 6 stitches each round in order to keep a flat circle. So you've just done 1, into the next stitch you're going to do an increase, which is 2 double crochets. Then proceed into the next stitch to work 1 double crochet, then 2, then 1, then 2. So you're working in your groups of 6, you're working 3 stitches into like every what would have been your original first stitch. So you have 3 stitches now and you have 6 lots of 3 stitches. As you can guess, in the next round you'll have 4 and then you'll have 6 lots of 4 stitches. For round 4, you're going to work a double crochet into that first stitch and then remember to replace your marker. Just in case you lose count. Obviously, if you're capable of counting your stitches as you go, you don't necessarily need it. Now the way I like to work these even rounds is to work my increase into the middle of my sets of stitches. So I do 1 double crochet, then 2 double crochets into the next stitch, another 1 double crochet for my set of 4. Some patterns you will see your increases always happen at the end of the set of stitches, at the end of the repeat. However, I like to do mine in the middle on my even rows because I find that it creates less of an obvious hexagon as it then moves round. If you were to create a flat circle, you would want to offset your increases because otherwise you will end up with a hexagon. If in your amigurumi, it doesn't necessarily matter. When working the gusset section of your octopus, you want to stop here at the 24 stitches. For round 5, what we're going to be doing is you're going to work 3 double crochets into each, so 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches, remembering to stitch marker that first stitch. So you'll work 3 double crochets, and then into the 4th stitch you'll work 2 double crochets. You'll increase stitch so that now you have 5 stitches per repeat, so you end up with 30 stitches at the end of your round. So you'll continue around, your repeat being 3 double crochets and then an increase, which is 2 double crochets. You may see this notated as a DC into the next 3 stitches, or 3 double crochets and then your increased stitch, which may be signified by brackets or square brackets to indicate that you do the same stitches into the same hole, or it may be just told to do then 2 double crochets into the next stitch. Now to work round 6, similarly to round 4, I would do my increases in the middle. So I will work 2 double crochets, then an increase, so 2 double crochets into the same stitch, then another 2 double crochets to create my set of 6 stitches, my repeat of 6 stitches. So I work 2 doubles, 2 into the same space, and then another 2 doubles, 1 into each stitch. So you'll end up creating a set of 6 stitches, and you'll have 6 sets of 6 stitches, creating 36 stitches in this round. So that is DC into the next 2 stitches, 2 DCs in the next stitch, and then a DC in the next 2 stitches. So you're filling 5 stitches from the previous round and creating 6 stitches. This will be the last round in which we are doing increasing for the octopus head, as we'll continue then to work just 1 stitch into each round for the next rounds. So for this round, you're going to be working just 1 double crochet into each stitch around, so you have 36 stitches and continue to have 36 stitches. You want to make sure that you're not increasing or decreasing, as it will change the shape of the head and make it not quite the dome that we're after. By working a single double crochet, that is 1 double crochet into each of the stitches, it starts to pull the stitches down and round. Because you're not increasing anymore, you'll start to pull it round and it will create that dome, and the more rounds you do, the more dome shape it will become. This first one, it may not look as if it is doing it so much, but once you reach into the second and third rounds, you'll be able to see the shape of the dome starting to form. You will continue to work 1 double crochet into each stitch until you have 16 rounds. You'll be able to identify these by the dents that you can see in between each round. Starting at that circle in the middle, you can count up. So once you've reached your 16 rounds, you can see you've now created your dome. If you start at the circle in the middle where you began, that counts as 1 round, the 6 that you can see gathering, and then you'll continue to count each row as you go up. Remember that you only count the bottoms of the stitches and the tops of these. It can be quite confusing. The top of that stitch does not count as a round. That whole stitch, remember, is just 1 round. If you do accidentally do 1 too many rounds, it won't matter too much. In this round, we're going to be decreasing, so this is my second crochet of the round. One way to decrease is to go under as if to double crochet, but before you yarn over again, you go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull that through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. But for amigurumi, there's also something called the invisible decrease, so you go under the front loop only of 2 stitches in a row, so you'll be pulling those 2 stitches together, and then you will yarn over again and pull that back through all of the loops that's on your hook. So then between each one, I'm going to be doing 4 double crochets, as we're working in sets of 5 stitches. Also, just a side note, this is the last time that I used crochet hooks as props. I filmed this in 2 rotations at once, and they're just too close together. So again, for the invisible finish, you go underneath the front loop only of 2 stitches, making sure you're coming from the front through to the middle of the front loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches on your hook. Then proceed to do another 4 double crochets. So again, that invisible decrease is to go under the front loop only from the front of the stitch up through the middle of the V, where we would normally work through under both, then tilting your hook down again to go underneath the front of the next stitch and yarning over, and then pulling through all 3 of those stitches that are on your hook, all 3 of the loops on your hook. This just means that the stitch ends up looking like 1 double crochet, whereas if you do a standard DC2 together, it will not look as nice. Once you reach the end of that round, you're then going to be doing another decrease round. So you'll work 3 double crochets and then your invisible decrease into the next 2 stitches, or across the next 2 stitches. So it's 3 double crochets, 1 into double crochet into the next 3 stitches, and then an invisible decrease, or a double crochet 2 together to decrease this round as well, depending on which technique you find easiest. I just find that the invisible decrease looks much nicer in the final finish. And there you have your head. So to fasten off, you're simply just going to trim the yarn and pull that out through, and then you can sew it under one of the first stitches. It's not necessary, but it can look just a little bit neater. But we're going to be sewing the gusset onto the bottom of the head in the end. If you now go to part 2, you will learn how to make your legs.